So just some thoughts, having had a good walk around the show. I've got a lot of the stands nearer to the show ring and then the outer edges as well, and one of the sort of key takeaways is the kind of impression. It might just be an impression that it's the big brands that are getting most of the attention. Big tractor brands, equipment brands, that's where, just because of how big some of the tractors are, machinery is, it gets a lot of the attention. And I guess they've got relationships with a lot of farmers as well, so that's where they tend to gravitate. But at the same time, there's lots of other exhibitors who are exhibiting a lot of equipment, and they're not getting nearly so much interest. It's a lot quieter, and it does give a general message that the agriculture sector overall, it's competitive. Of course it is. Lots of manufacturers competing for farmers' business, and it's the bigger ones, the big global brands that get the biggest pockets, have got the best means to withstand any of the pressures that we're feeling at the moment in the agricultural sector. There's lots of slightly smaller brands, not totally small by any stretch of imagination, but relatively small compared to the big John Deeres and the Massey Fergusons, Caverners, and others, New Hollands, who, they're bellwether. They've been, in the agriculture sector for decades and decades and decades and decades, and will be in some way, shape or form in the next few decades as well. The question really becomes one of, what about everyone else? How much consolidation might we see in the industry? And this is also true when we think in the future, transition towards more sustainable fuels, towards automation, where tractors become even more and fully automated, more so than they are today. Is that something that is going to mean that there's more consolidation in the manufacturing sector, the OEM sector? Or will there still be room for startups that are coming in with innovative tech and doing something a little bit different? We hope there will be, because that's what we need. What we don't need is a market that is, if it's not monopolistic, it's more oligopolistic. It's dominated by a few different players. But that's the truth. That is the truth. That's where we are today in many ways. When we look across the agricultural sector, be it from manufacturers and also suppliers in terms of seeds and other input materials, fertilisers, it's dominated by a small number of global brands, and that puts more control, gives them more control in terms of pricing, and because we don't have that competition to drive prices down, which isn't good news for farmers. So there are lots of big questions in the longer term about how this market plays out, how the agricultural sector evolves in the next 5 or 10 years, because technology isn't slowing down. It's the cliche, it is continuing to accelerate, and robotics and AI will play an increasingly larger role in the agricultural sector, and that's also going to be compounded by a lot of farmers who are still farming today in their 70s and 80s, who have fully retired or passed away and left a younger generation, and younger generation different expectations in terms of what they want out of their life and how they want to farm, and farm differently, because that's one thing for sure we're going to see, that farming, as it always has done, but increasingly so, will be markedly different from how it has been in the past. And as I've touched on, that's where we see a lot more automation and much more in the way of sustainable farming practices as well, not just because it's a nice thing to do, but because it's becoming one more of necessity, because the cost of applying fertilisers in fields just isn't going to be sustainable. So the only option is to go back to nature and to farm more sustainably. So on a day like today, when it's so sunny and so hot, and it generally is hot, things can feel more optimistic. But it's very different, when the rain has come in and the weather isn't helping farmers in a way that it probably has been a bit more helpful this particular year so far, with a reasonable mix of rain and quite a lot of warm sunshine and dry spells as well. So uncertainty will continue to prevail across many different dimensions. The show is kind of one place where everyone comes together, can have these types of conversations about how they're feeling, what the future looks like, how they're going to manage that future. And let's hope, I think that's the one thing for me, is that innovation continues to remain to the fore, and it's not left just to the big companies to innovate, that there continues to be lots of space for smaller startups who can succeed as well. So with that overall summary on day 2 of the show, we'll wrap up for now as the pipe band is about to pass through.